Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are on episode 14 of the My Favorite LJN tournament. So at this stage, I'm pretty much classifying this as about 1/3 of the way through round one. Again, with the tournament this size, we are looking at approximately 7 rounds. But once you get to round 6, for example, it's the semifinals, 2 matchups, round 7, 1 matchup. So really, once you get past round 4, round 5 will go by pretty smoothly. Round 6, again, 1 video. Round 6 and 7, I usually combine into 1 video. So, but I'm probably going to separate those videos because I want each round to be its own unique video, at least for the videos where it's only going to be 1 round or 1 video for that round. So last video, I kind of was, when I was going through the bowl, and I came across that one paper that didn't have a name on it. It looked like the name was cut off. I'm kind of mad about that because now I literally have to match up the names of everything that I've written down in the notebook at the end of the round 1 and kind of match it up with every single figure that I have. And that's going to be a long, drawn out process because, or I could just say, forget it. If the numbers are even, just forget that extra figure. If there was a missing figure, I mean, it's possible that all I saw was just like a name that wasn't written down. Because when I wrote the names on the paper, right, and I had this stack of papers, I just had the scissors. I was basically cutting them through like so. So obviously, when you got the sheets of paper, they're stacked like this, and I'm just cutting right through in the middle. But I don't know. We'll see what happens, man. And I still haven't added the new Vince McMahon or the new Tito Santana figure to this tournament. But I'm probably going to wait till this bowl dies down. And that way I can include those figures somewhere towards the end. I'm not going to have them square off against each other. Not unless I randomly draw them to face off against each other. But with that being said, these videos have been going like 40 minutes recently. And I'm trying to keep them to about 30. So I don't want to do too much talking at the beginning. Ooh, this is a good one. This one's going to feature the tall Andre the Giant. And this one is going to... he's going to square off against Harley Race. That's going to be an interesting matchup. So this is Blue Davy Boy. And he will square off against the blue and white custom Hogan. Which one is these? B. Brian Blair will do battle against the Wrestling Rider Hercules. And last matchup is going to feature Jack Tunney as he does battle against Bob Orton. That's a bad matchup. But names have been drawn, so let's go ahead and get those figures pulled and let's begin. Alright folks, the names or the figures have been pulled, and the first one I said was the tall Andre the Giant, and he squares off against King Harley Race. Now Harley Race is the original figure, not any of the customs. Now someone might sit here and be like, okay, Andre the Giant is tall. What specifies a tall Andre the Giant compared to other Andre the Giant figures? When you see this one, you will understand. This one, just like... it would be nice to kind of have, even with the freaking crown on there, he still hovers over the Harley Race figure. We will look at Harley Race first. So, I can't say this enough. I mention this every single time I talk about a clothed figure. When I look at Hasbro, and I look at the green suited $1 Million Man. Still my favorite Hasbro $1 Million Man figure. Yeah, I think the Series 9 is a much more playable figure, sure. Much more enjoyable, but the Series 9 or the Series 2 green suit was my $1 Million Man from childhood, so that one still holds a special bond or a special memory for me, a special fondness. And so, like, when I look at figures like that, or Honky Tonk Man from Hasbro, and then I look at LJNs, I look at figures like Honky Tonk Man and the $1 Million Man once again. When I look at figures like Harley Race, in of himself, I would say that this figure is probably comparable to that of like a Jimmy Snuka. And Jimmy Snuka could very well possibly be the worst LJN ever made. Now, we can sit here all day and say Rick Rude all day because of, you know, the way that his arms are molded to his body, to his side. But I like the pants of Rick Rude. That's why I don't complain about that figure as much. But Jimmy Snuka, very simple figure. Harley Race could potentially have been probably number 3, number 4, maybe even number 5 of worst LJN ever made. But the freaking built-on clothing accessories saves this figure. So, instead of being one of the top 5 worst figures from the LJN line, this is probably, again, I haven't gone through and done a complete dive of, you know, how I list these figures in order based on my preference, but I would say that this is probably a figure somewhere in the 30s, maybe in the 40s at worst. So, instead of being a bottom tier figure, low 60s or in the 70s, he's in like the 40s at worst. Why? Aesthetically, it's a fantastic looking figure. He just has a horrific play pose, which you literally cannot do anything with. You can't sit there. I mean, this is even worse than, think of Lex Luger from Galoob. At least Lex Luger, you got that double DDT, right? And with the arms, there's the way that they're stationed, at least you could kind of throw like bring him up somewhat. It's an aesthetically pleasing figure, but it's just not a kid's action figure. I don't know anything about Harley Race. Kind of going back through like YouTube and whatnot, I see manager Harley Race in like WCW. But as I don't know. I kind of think I saw a YouTube video, and it had to be very recently, where Harley Race body slammed Andre the Giant. And I kind of find that funny that these two are going to square off against each other in this matchup. So that is freaking awesome. I always like to think of Hulk Hogan as being like the original or the only guy to ever body slam Andre the Giant, but no. It seems like everyone and their mom has body slammed Andre at some point. Alright, yes, Hogan, got it. Ultimate Warrior has probably body slammed Andre the Giant multiple times. Freaking Harley Race, who does not give me the appearance of being like this big musclehead, has even body slammed Andre. And I'm sure, you know, a much younger Andre the Giant, a little bit better health-wise. I'm pretty sure, you know, he jumps up and, you know, it helps. I mean, Harley Race isn't just lifting him from a straight deadlift or whatnot, but I like the figure. I honestly, I do like the figure. It's like Ricky Steamboat and all these other figures like I complain about because of play pose, because of my preference for a fighting first figure. But overall look is spectacular. There are a couple Mark Hackenberg figures that I got customized, or that he customized that I bought off him. One is a repaint with a little bit more highlighted colors of the original figure. Another one is a complete repaint of a much younger Harley Race, and it looks spectacular. And I can't wait to get to those figures, especially the younger version. I think either one of those figures could go very far in this tournament. And to be honest, going against the right competition, this could be a multiple round participant. This isn't someone I feel like could go against 5 people and win. No, this is a legitimate contender to go multiple rounds. Andre the Giant. This came up on, obviously, the Raider Nation. And the Raider Nation at one point had a couple different Andre the Giants. One was a simple Series 1 repaint. But the overall look of the figure I really wanted. The only downside, when I look at like a Series 1 line, I kind of look at, you know, Hogan and Andre and Stud. I kind of look at them as like $10, $15 figures, right? Yeah, I get it. You're taking the time. You're painting these figures. You're putting the time and effort into painting these figures, and with the supplies used for the paints and all that. I can understand going up to like $30, $40 for some of these figures, but when someone's charging you $80 to $100 for the figures, $120, I'm like, no, the value just isn't there. But I have been known to pay up more for certain figures based on certain sellers. And yeah, I paid up for that Andre, and I paid up for this Andre because of who I was purchasing them from, and I didn't want to lose out on the opportunity to get them. I really enjoyed them. There was I said I don't generally wrestle these guys. Somebody was asking me a while ago, like months ago, to make a Royal Rumble match, and I actually came down here and I filmed 2 of them, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out how to freaking edit it because they ran over an hour long, and one of the videos were cut out at like 8 minutes, and then the next one was like 59 minutes or something, so I couldn't put them together. And it sucks because like I spent a good amount of time kind of putting a nice Rumble match together. And unlike someone like Jason from Blatant Inference Wrestling, I don't do the awesome commentaries, so I'm basically just going to just kind of talking about the actual match that's happening, what's happening. I don't do the actual back and forth with different commentary, different voices and whatnot, so I would have to have somebody kind of do a dub of the match for me. But I use this figure, and this one was a lot of fun to use. Pretty awesome. And it's, I don't know, it kind of, when I first saw this, I kind of thought maybe this was like the new Big Rubber Guys variant, but I had to reach out to Justin to confirm, and he's like, no, it's a completely different figure. I'm like, okay, great, because I had already purchased the Big Rubber Guys. There are a lot of Andre the Giant figures in this one, but for me, it's a relatively easy decision. Andre the Giant all day long. And this is what kind of confuses me, especially when you look at like the original LJN line. Sometimes you'll see Andre with a strap over the right shoulder, sometimes over the left shoulder. It's like, dang, can you like keep it over one single shoulder so you're not confusing folks? But yeah, I'm looking at the original, and strap goes over the right shoulder. So maybe they do that because they want to be different. I don't know. So that you're not sitting there thinking, hey, it's an original Series 6, which no fan is going to misconceive that as to be an original figure, but misinterpret that to be the original figure. Next matchup is going to feature the Hogan and Blue Davey Boy Smith. This is a fun one. We will start off with Hulk Hogan. So, this one I actually put the Mr. America Hulk Hogan title belt on this one. And I think at some point, if there's anyone out there who actually has like the Mr. America mask, like if it's made out of cloth or something that could just like kind of wrap around his head, that would be freaking amazing. I think with this look, that would actually work really well. If I'm not mistaken, I do believe this is the very first custom I ever purchased. And I think I bought this from, I believe I got this from Andrew Sabo, Move Over Swanson on eBay. So I probably got this maybe around November of 2021. Now, given I just started collecting LJNs around that time period, probably within like the last month or two prior to purchasing this figure, and at that time, I wasn't familiar with LJNs. I probably hadn't seen 80% of the figures. So when I saw this on Andrew's page, I didn't know anything about this. I didn't know if this was a custom or anything about that. I think at the time, I kind of felt like this was a, what I now know to be a Series 5 white shirt Hogan. In 1988, obviously, you got the red shirt and the white shirt Hogan. And I think I had seen like a white shirt Hogan version. I thought maybe this was that figure. Again, at that point, I was still brand new to LJN, still brand new to collecting LJNs and whatnot. So I didn't know any better. I'm still glad I got this figure, man. I mean, like I said, in 2 tournaments, this has always been multiple round winner or multiple round. I would always have like my original figures square off against their custom counterparts in the first 2 tournaments. This tournament, I decided to switch things up and don't do that, and that way it gives every figure the opportunity to move forward to the next round. So, and of course, depending on depending on who he could face or who he squares off against, this could be your champion. I have such a high affection for this particular figure. Namely, 1, name recognition. My favorite wrestler, Hulk Hogan, right? Number 2, one of the greatest action figures ever produced, period. Perfect. 2. 3, it's a very simple paint scheme, but it's one I thoroughly enjoy. So a lot of these figures that, like when he did my when he did my original San Francisco repaint that I wanted, I was just expecting him to kind of like, paint yellow on the chest and paint the legs red, right? And I've seen customs on eBay, and they did exactly the same thing. And the glossiness, it looks just like the original San Francisco figure itself. But when he made the figure, he kind of like built on a shirt and built on boots. I'm like, why would you build on boots? It wasn't what I was expecting. At the time, I couldn't really say. I was disappointed because, like, friends. But sometimes you don't have to build on the extra. It's nice to kind of feel like it's a shirt or something. But this right here, just painting over the chest is perfectly fine. Hasbro does that with all of their figures. They don't have anything where you feel underneath it. It's just painted over the figures. So, really solid figure. Again, the very first custom I ever bought. So, being the first of anything will kind of always hold a special meaning. You'll have a certain bond with that particular figure. So, from Eric recently, this is one of the batch of figures I did get in from him. And from Big Rubber Guys, when Series 5 British Bulldogs came out, they had both blue pants and white pants. I actually thought I was getting the blue pants. And when they came out with the white pants, I was disappointed. Yeah, I mean, I was happy to get the Bulldogs, but I didn't want the white pants. I wanted this color scheme. So, this is what I was talking about. Eric had always done such amazing work for me, and I think it was just because after freaking 2 years of me bitching and complaining, well, not, let me take it back. After 2 years of not getting anything from him, and then after, a few months of me like, hey man, you gonna send me something? Can I get something from you? I will pay you to ship me one figure. Something. Give me something so that I don't feel concerned about losing all my money. And then when I finally got that box of figures, it literally looks like he only spent about 2 weeks painting up these figures or a few days and threw them in a box and sent them to me. So, unfinished. I put these up on eBay. I put them up on Mercari. The same day I got them. I looked at them. I'm like, no, I am not happy with this, not one bit. So in order to try and get my money back from what I paid him for the figures, I'm like, yeah, literally that same day, I put them up and tried to sell them because I just wasn't pleased. I wasn't happy, but maybe someone out there would look at them and be enthusiastic. Or maybe there's a customizer who would look at them and be like, hey, they're in good shape. Maybe I can make subtle changes and make them really impressive. So, Davey Boy Smith, again, you guys already know, but when it comes to the LJNs, the British Bulldogs, I don't think they're terrible figures. I've never said that they're bad figures. They're just not good. They're not elite figures. They're not like super crazy enjoyable figures. There are a couple aspects on here that are okay. Like, I don't know if he tried painting these graphics with like Matilda and the UK flag, or if that's some kind of stencil. I want to say it's hand painted because it doesn't look like it's stencil, but it could be. and then he just painted the blue pants around it. But yeah. To me, this is, again, a no-brainer. Hulk Hogan, even if it was just original Bulldog against original Hogan, Hogan all day, every day. Original Hogan against any variant of this, of Davey Boy, would be Hogan. Simple choice for me. Third matchup features, also from Eric, Hercules, and he squares off against B. Brian Blair. Now, this is probably the most difficult decision of this video. And I can never get these damn chains to situate correctly. Ugh. And the reason I say that this matchup is so difficult, because essentially it is a resin figure going against a rubber figure. Now, obviously, I always put value more on the rubber figures than I do the resin. The other day, what was it, a couple of videos ago, we looked at the Bob Backlund figure, and I mentioned that B. Brian Blair for LJN is a fantastic figure, because you obviously want to try and get as many different poses for your figures as possible from LJN. It was perfectly fine. A lot of customizers that are recycling body types. If you're going to recycle a body type, I would recommend recycling a body type that A, fits the mold of the figure or the character, and B, is actually playable, something that somebody's really going to enjoy. I just don't see this pose fitting for someone like Bob Backlund, right? So, perfectly fine for B. Brian Blair. A very acceptable figure. In fact, like I said, I think this is a top 25 LJN action figure. But for Bob Backlund, it was just subpar. It wasn't enjoyable. I do have both variants of the figure. So you do know that B. Brian Blair has, again, his normal Bumblebee look. And then there's one variant where there's no black on the trunks, just straight yellow. And that's a very expensive variant. Normally you're looking at a couple $100, and even at a couple $100, the figure is generally pretty beat up. I think I lucked out on mine. I got mine for about $100. I think I was the only bidder on auction, and I think the only reason that happened is because I think there were some deficiencies to the figure. If I can recall, like maybe the nose was pushed in or something. I don't remember, but you know what? It was just nice to have the variant. And for my collection, it's not just about getting all the originals, but having the variants as well, having everything to be able to, when I do my reviews and everything, show you guys all of what LJN came out with. Really solid piece. When it comes to LJN, yes, I knew all about Heart Foundation, of course. I knew about Big Boss Man. I knew about Akeem. I never knew about One Man Gang. So the name Twin Towers, I don't know if that necessarily meant anything to me per se. Yeah, with Hogan and Macho Man, of course. But, you know, they're not really a tag team. They put Hogan and Hillbilly Jim. I didn't remember Hillbilly Jim. There was this episode of, I believe it was Saturday Main Event or Wrestling Superstars or something, where Vince McMahon and Mr. Perfect, Bobby Heenan, Hillbilly Jim, etc. They're kind of like sitting around this table, and Macho Man's talking about like the perfect partner, right? To kind of join him in his match against Ric Flair and Razor Ramon. I remember Hillbilly Jim then. So it's like those kind of refreshers that you get. But like when I first started collecting LJNs, I didn't know anything about Hillbilly Jim at the time. But it's like when you go back and you kind of like watch that old stuff and you get those refreshers, I'm like, yeah, I do remember this guy. Or like the the little people matchups with like King Kong Bundy, because I remember the King Kong Bundy crushing one of the small guys and then him going for another one, and then the guy's kind of dragging him out. Maybe that's why I always put Hillbilly Jim and King Kong Bundy together. Maybe it's subconsciously, I kind of see them dueling because of that. But I don't even know how I went off on that tangent. But back to the figure itself. B. Brian Blair, obviously, Killer Bees are a tag team I actually knew of. I didn't know B. Brian Blair. I didn't know Jim Brunzell. I just knew the name Killer Bees. So Howard Foundation, I knew about them. Didn't know anything about Strike Force. So British Bulldogs, again, I knew about Davey Boy Smith. Didn't know anything about Dynamite. So it was only one British Bulldog to me. This is a tough one because I love the B. Brian Blair figure, and I like the fact that he is rubber, and that gives him a huge leg up. The Hercules is... This particular Hercules is arguably, I would have to say, customs or original. This would have to be a top 10 figure. Now I couldn't put originals in there, but at least among customs, this would have to be top 10. And I think it all boils down to the face of the figure. And when you look at resin figures, again, they're just statues. You're not looking at these as playable wrestling action figures. So pose is not exactly the most important thing in the world to you at that point. Even though he does kind of have like that warlord pose, so it's still a playable figure if you wanted to. And you could still wrestle these, but you got to be very gentle with them. And he comes with an accessory, which I can never properly put on there, so I just kind of drape it around randomly. As from sitting on the shelf, it looks fantastic. The one thing that keeps this from going all the way to the end, or darn near close to the end, is the fact that he's a resin figure. And if this was a rubber piece, yeah, that to me would make all the difference in the world, or would make a lot of difference in the world, I should say. And when you generally look at resin figures, you're getting that 3D printed look as if you just taken a photograph of the wrestler. Whereas if you look at a bunch of random treasure figures nowadays, you're kind of getting like that old school vintage 1980s look, which is fantastic. I'd much rather have that kind of more of a cartoon look to it than a realistic facial look. Now, Rap Treasures, I don't want to say they failed, but Undertaker, he looks more kind of like a realistic look in the face than more of a cartoony. But again, it's a toss-up. It's brilliant, but it's not as vintage looking, so is it as brilliant? Undertaker's a fine figure. There's no wrong answer there. This actually is a real Hercules figure, unlike the Raider Nation Hercules that I had previously that was utilizing a Hillbilly or a Billy Jack Haynes figure. Because that Hercules at one point was probably one of the first 10, one of the first 20 customs I ever bought. For the longest time, that figure meant a lot to me. When I did my first tournament, I had all of the Hercules figures. That Hercules, this Hercules, and the LJN Hercules all square off against each other. And this was my victor. The second tournament, I don't think I had any of the three square off against each other. And that's only because all three of them are completely different fighting poses. So this time, I don't think it made any difference. You're still going to have three Hercules going up against different competition. But Hercules is going to win this matchup. And last matchup is going to feature Bob Orton as he squares off against Jack Tunney. This is a bad matchup. I kind of feel like I know who I'm going to select, but I'm not happy about it. So we will start with LJN original Bob Orton. Right off the bat, accessory, fantastic. If you were to get rid of this right here, this is a excellent looking figure. In fact, I think, if I recall correctly, I think Mattel Retros, I think they have the exact same look. I'm trying to picture it in my head, but I'm having trouble. But I think they had a very similar look to this. And Mattel Retro of Bob Orton is incredible. Aesthetically, even though he's a much slimmed down figure, this is still a quality figure. It's just that when you look at this right here, this right arm, you can't do anything with this. Not a DDT. It's too close in for a DDT. You can't really do a punch. The backwards fist, I mean, he's an elbow drop only figure. So, this is why Bob Orton to me is easily a top 5 worst all-time LJN. There's not even a question. It's just a bad, bad, bad figure. And figures like this should not ever see the light of day in a round 2. Okay? Jack Tunney is a fine figure. I don't think we saw Donald Trump already in this tournament, and you're gonna see later on. You're gonna see guys like Lord Alfred Hayes, and I think we already saw. I think we already saw the Raider Nation's variant of or version of Howard Finkel. And a lot of time you're gonna utilize Mean Gene Okerlund's body. Mean Gene Okerlund is a fine body type for a lot of your announcers or commentators or executives. So, it's not bad. This figure right here was not done was not the most crisp or clean figure. Whoever customized this, they did an okay job, but obviously you look at it up close and personal, you do find some issues. For example, why would you cut out the microphone from the hand? So I would not have changed that. I would have left the microphone alone. And if you were going to cut that out, at least do something with the remnants, right? So that really sucked. The head, the head looks fine. Kind of looks like freaking who does it remind me of? Damn, drawing a blank. I'll get back to it because it's killing me right now. But the back of the head, this is what kills is driving me nuts. Look at like the hairline. If the hair was all the way down here, straight across, the head would be fine. But like you could actually notice that somebody cut the head off because of that. But like I said, if the hair was straight across, you probably wouldn't know the difference if you were an unsuspecting first-time LJN goer or LJN buyer. Actually, I don't know. I thought maybe, kind of bringing these up, I thought maybe I was going to go with Bob Orton. But Bob Orton is just such a bad figure. And I didn't have the strength in me to put that Owen Hart figure that we saw recently in the next round. Even though I kind of felt like he was better than Jesse Ventura. Ish. You know what? I put a really bad Jesse Ventura figure in round 2. I'm going to have to do the same this matchup and put a really bad Bob Orton figure in round 2. The custom, it's fine. Again, for an added piece to the collection, especially this, which doesn't even sit on my main display because there's no room over here. I try to keep all figures I buy from the same customizers basically shelved together. So when you go through my little back storage room door, I keep all the same figures from Hulk 0125 on the same shelf back there. So it's an okay figure, and I think he made it multiple rounds in the My Favorite Manager tournament. So probably a second rounder, maybe, if I recall correctly. Still, not a bad choice. I think Bob Orton might deserve this one. So we were able to shave off about 5 minutes off this video, so not quite the 30 minutes I've been hoping for, but I'm still aiming for 30 minutes every video, and as long as we stay away from those 40-45 minute videos, I think we'll be good. But guys, hopefully this was a fun video, and you did agree with most of my selections, or all of my selections. If not, please let me know who you would have chosen in the comments, and until next time. Thanks, everybody.